Let's talk about the godfather of all Stoic philosophy. Born around 334 BCE, approximately 80 years after Plato's birth in 428 BCE, Zeno was considered the first philosopher to lay down the founding principles of Stoicism. But this doesn't mean that certain people who inspired him hadn't previously shown certain indications of Stoic principles in their behavior. I mean, take Socrates, for example. This particular philosopher king preferred living in a barrel and harassing passerbys with deep philosophical questions over wealth and prosperity. I'd say that's some pretty serious Stoic street cred right there. Let me know in the comments if you want a video on Socrates next. So while Socrates can be seen as the godfather of ancient Greek philosophy, Zeno is often considered the godfather of Stoicism. From Socrates came Aristotle and Plato, and it was these three philosopher kings who greatly influenced the ideas of Zeno. So while Zeno certainly laid down the founding principal ideas of Stoicism, the ideas of ancient Greek philosophy certainly paved the way. Let's remember that Zeno was deeply inspired by a book written by Xenophon, a student of Socrates. This occurred when Zeno gained a keen interest in philosophy after reading Memorabilia, a collection of Socratic dialogues exploring various ethical and philosophical issues. And boy, did Zeno get what he asked for not long after that. It was a tragically eventful day when his ship decided to wreck itself at sea and plunge headfirst into the water, taking with it all of Zeno's lifelong belongings. Before this event, Zeno was said to be a very wealthy merchant and businessman. According to legends, it is also said that Zeno's reaction was emotionless and wrought with a stench of Stoic principles. Okay, maybe I made up the part about the stench, but just take a look at some of these Stoic ideas inspired by Zeno's shipwreck. The greater the difficulty, the more glory in surmounting it. The whole future lies in uncertainty. Live immediately. The greatest wealth is to live content with little. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts, not your boat. So maybe in some strange, twisted sense of the words of Seneca, luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. Maybe Zeno saw the shipwreck as a profitable stroke of luck that his ship sank for a reason, so he could see it as an opportunity to practice his stoicism. And yet, considering the events that followed in Zeno's life, it seems as if he might have actually been rather correct to think this. According to legend, a famous quote from Zeno was, "Fortune has given us a good omen. She has saved us while stripping us of our possessions." For the record, I think it's important to note that he said this while watching his entire life's earnings slip into the ocean, never to be seen again. The whole time witnessing this, Zeno remained calm and unshaken, not letting his emotions overcome him, all the while thinking, well, there goes all those fields I plowed with nothing but a garden hoe. According to Stoic philosophy, one should strive to maintain a calm and rational mindset in the face of pain and adversity, rather than succumbing to emotional reactions like fear or anger. After the shipwreck, Zeno came across a famous bookstore where he found a copy of Xenophon's Memorabilia, a book about Socrates and his teachings. Fascinated by the book, he decided to pursue philosophy entirely. Oddly enough, Zeno began studying under a philosopher Crates in Athens. And what was it again that made Crates so drawn to Zeno in the first place? I'll tell you right now, it wasn't his non-existent boat. No, Crates was impressed when he observed Zeno carrying a load of goods through the streets in a logical, systematic, and orderly fashion. After witnessing this dazzling performance of Zeno's ability of perfectly ordering boxes of shipwrecked belongings, Crates invited Zeno to study philosophy with him. And there you go. Best f***ing friends forever, apparently. Among the famous philosophers influenced by Zeno's teachings were Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius, the last remaining Roman emperor in a line of succession commonly referred to as the Five Good Emperors. They were considered to be benevolent rulers who brought stability, prosperity, and good governance to the Roman Empire. That's right, even though Marcus Aurelius was a rich and wealthy Roman emperor, he still wrote some of the deepest and most heartfelt stoicism ever written, which is typically thought to be written by people in times of hardship, poverty, or times of great peril and suffering. In other words, most normal folk don't usually realize the true worth or value or true meaning of stoicism until life starts to, really suck. And then suddenly you're like, oh, stoicism, yeah. Marcus Aurelius, yeah. And for the record, if anyone was going, Was that the...
Your false as a son is my failure as a father.
The answer is yes. That is the old dude with the shitty son from Gladiator. And yes, Commodus, aka the Mad Emperor, is also why Marcus Aurelius was considered the last of the 5 great Roman emperors. Leave a comment if you want a video on Marcus Aurelius next. For now, let me just end by saying if you haven't read the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, then you're really missing out. Not only is it one of the greatest Stoic philosophies of all time, but in my opinion, it is one of the greatest books ever written. Although we know that Zeno founded the Stoic school of philosophy and taught many students, little is known about how he actually taught. It is said that one of his key principles is that material possessions and external circumstances are ultimately outside of our control, and that true happiness and inner peace comes from within, through the cultivation of wisdom and virtue. Zeno believed that happiness is not found in the absence of problems, but rather through the ability to deal with them and react appropriately. His Stoic principles of self-control and acceptance of the natural order of things allowed him to endure and ultimately thrive in challenging circumstances. In the end, Zeno's shipwreck became a moment of transformation and growth, as opposed to a burden, and this is one of the greatest virtues of Stoicism. It provides a way of looking at one's situation and coming out on top of things, even if the odds are against you. In conclusion, Zeno of Cyprus was a philosopher who experienced a life-changing event that ultimately led him to found the Stoic school of philosophy. Zeno's legacy continues to influence modern-day philosophy, and as we reflect on the story of Zeno, we can appreciate the value of Stoicism in our lives and strive to cultivate inner strength and wisdom in the face of life's challenges. So now for a closing statement. I just want to end this with an analysis of this story from my own personal understanding of the situation from my own Stoic philosophies. Gathering what we know so far about Zeno and the shipwreck, who knows what really happened or how Zeno reacted actually. Maybe all these stories are told this way simply because they can be told this way. So maybe this is what it has become through the legends and time. But let's just take a moment to critically analyze this situation. According to the first Stoic principle, here's the first thing you do when your entire life sinks into the sea. First, you ask yourself, is this situation under my control? Yes or no? Well, how do you answer that question? It depends, right? How about, did I do everything in my power to prevent the storm from capsizing my ship? If the answer is yes, then the situation was not under your control, and you cannot be blamed for what happened, so therefore you shouldn't blame yourself. If the answer is no, then it was simply the fate of nature, so at the end of the day, why be more upset at yourself than you already are over the tragic event? In accordance with Stoic principles, we should not allow ourselves to be distressed by circumstances beyond our control, such as a boat drifting away at sea. If you just lost everything you own, why choose yourself to make things worse than they already are when you just did everything that was within your power to do? And this is why this philosophy often doesn't seem relevant or doesn't make sense for people who aren't trying their best. The philosophy simply falls apart when you don't try your best in life. In the modern era, the suffering we face is probably nothing compared to previous generations. The great and mighty ocean just swallowed up your boat. What are you going to do about it? Mope about, saying, oh, woe is me? Feeling sorry for yourself over things outside your control? Or are you going to do what Zeno did and choose to only get angry about the things which are within your control? Which in this case for Zeno was apparently nothing, judging by his cold and emotionless reaction to losing everything he ever had. It may have hurt him, but he didn't let it keep him from turning that opportunity into a chance to start the philosophy of Stoicism. Did it hurt? Of course it did, and it likely hurt like hell. But the important part is that you did everything you could to keep your boat from sinking. So if in the end the ship sank, that's not on you anymore, is it? That's on Mother Earth. That's on the natural order of things. You accept the natural order of things with humility and move on with your life as best you can. Now, of course, the emotional burden one would feel in a situation like this for most people would be far too unbearable for anything I am explaining to make a difference in how they feel in that moment. In other words, this is infinitely easier said than done. However, I have experienced this much to be true. The more you practice these Stoic principles in real-life scenarios, the better you actually get at them. Reacting appropriately to adversity is actually a skill we develop through things like suffering. So next time you are suffering, instead of looking at it as a chance to weep, instead maybe try looking at it as one more opportunity to develop a stronger resilience in the face of hardship. Stoicism is truly a way of living and interacting with the world, which surprisingly is actually something you practice and get better at with hard work, time, Stoic wisdom, and a lot of help from Zeno. At least this is my version of this epic tale of how Stoicism as we know it today was born from a tragically optimistic shipwreck at sea. Thanks for watching Isshe. This is part of a sub-series called Tiny Tales of Enlightenment. If you would like more content for this sub-series, please don't hesitate to leave a suggestion in the comments below. Oh, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this content. See you next time.